Okay, oh my goodness. Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. I am your host today, Gunnar Rohrbacher. Welcome to Chattable, Hollywood Stories, Insights, and Overshares. Oh my God, I forgot the tagline. You might have been thinking I'm hitting the hooch early, but no. Anyway, welcome, brought to you by the team at ACS. You can find me at Gunnar the Comedy Coach on all the social media places. And if you're asking, what is Chattable? What did I show up into a Zoom square for? They're simple, informal, friendly conversations. Happy Halloween, with some notable industry friends who know a thing or two about a thing or two. So I'll get to an intro in just a second, but the format is pretty simple. We will have a conversation at the front part. I'll ask a lot of the questions that I think people want to know. And then we'll have an official Q&A session at the end, and I'll try to get to all the questions if I can. Can't make any promises. Our producer today is Erin Coleman. She will help facilitate. So anyway, when we get to that point, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the question and answer, the Q&A box. And then there is also a regular Zoom chat, which you're welcome to. Erin just posted a comment there, and you're also welcome to post comments, talk to each other, make friends. It's about community. So I don't know, maybe you'll make a pal by chatting during the Chattable. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome today's honored guest, theatrical agent extraordinaire, and also just in general, one of my favorite humans, Sarabeth Schedeen.
Yay. Hi.
Hi, I heard you.
I clicked in my video, it says I can't start it, unable to start. The host has stopped it.
That's terrible.
You're the host.
I'm actually not.
Erin.
Erin, are you around?
The host has asked you to start. Okay, baby. Hi, everybody.
Okay, baby.
Welcome. What a fucking day. What have we got? 56 hours till the polls close. We have Halloween on a Saturday, which won't happen till 2039. This is the second full moon of the month, which makes it a blue fucking moon. I suggest in the next 24 hours, you go for it.
Isn't it also a red moon, I heard?
Blue.
And a red. I think it's both.
No, it's blue. Look at me, blue.
I know there are things that can both be true at the same time. It's not an either or. Blood moon or something. Anyway, it was all the moon.
It's all moons.
Anyway, look at you. Vote blue. Vote, my God.
Vote, my God.
Country. It's too late for the male kids. If anybody's still hanging on to a ballot. I put mine in a box the day after I got it in the mail. What did you do?
I mailed mine I got it October 2nd. I was in the first batch, and I put it in the mailbox at the post office October 4th. So I haven't looked it up. Somebody says you can look it up.
Yeah, you got to go on the tracker. I tracked mine. I was validated.
How do I validate myself? Because I need that.
I'll send you the link after.
Okay.
It feels really good just to say, like, yes, Gunnar, we got it, and you were tabulated, and there was, no hijinks. You're accounted.
No hijinks. Okay.
No hijinks.
Hey, my daughter is driving to Arizona right now to canvass for 48 hours.
The beautiful Minnie Schedeen.
Minnie Schedeen.
Yeah, and talented. How is Minnie otherwise these days?
She's good, not a political person, but she has found her ideals and her value system, and she's going to make it work and apply it.
She's a smart cookie. You're such a good mom. Okay, well, welcome to Chattable. Thank you. It's so good to see your face. I do adore you. And so because I love you so much, I decided I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
First thing. Here's my first question for you.
Okay.
Do you remember where we first met?
I believe we went to Disneyland. and we rode on that scary house I mean, we were together in our little pod of people, but then we rode on that terribly scary ride where you go up and you're way up high and you look out on the whole world and then you drop. Am I right?
The Tower of Terror.
The Tower of Terror, which is gone now.
It's gone.
It's gone. And that was when I had always heard about you, and I had thought that you were only a writer. And it was at that experience, which let's say was 14 years ago, something like that. And I found out that you were also an actor, and I learned that you were a marvelous actor and that you are a wonderkind of all things. And I learned that at Disneyland.
Cheers. I just thought I'd bring that up because how many people can say I have a 14-year, 15-year relationship with somebody, and it actually started at Disneyland because there was a mutual friend involved. So I actually met Sarabeth Schedeen at Disneyland, and it's continued to be magical all the way through. Okay, so far you're getting an A+ because I answered. Then I wanted, are you at the farm right now?
I am at the farm. If it wasn't so bright right where I'm sitting, I would show you my beautiful where I am. I'm in paradise. I grew up a farmer. I grew up a farmer in Oregon. One of my brothers still farms the family farm. I own a big, giant, drafty, horrific farmhouse that I'm normally only in mostly a little at Christmas and the summer months. But now I can be anywhere in the world. I was on a Zoom the other day with 2 attorneys, a business affairs, a client, and a manager, and myself. Nobody was in LA except one attorney. And he had a whole bunch of kids and a wife, and he couldn't leave. Everyone was spread all over the globe doing their job. And so anyway, I was here for 3 months. I didn't come in the beginning. When they started the riots in June, I said, well, it wasn't riots, it was protests, but I knew where that would go. Then I came up here, and it's laughable because Portland is completely fucking out of control, though I'm 45 minutes from Portland. I'm in Trump country. And I came back to LA for 1 month, and then I'm back up here now till whenever.
Till whenever. Wow.
Till whenever. I don't know. Maybe I have to go back next week, but probably not. I will say that in this period of time, we have an agency that is East Coast and West Coast. And the West Coast, we're fantastic. We're awesome. We got 1 million pilots. We got 1 million series. We have a tiny list, 170, 180 clients. We were set to have the biggest year any of us had ever had in our careers. And everyone is a senior agent. And I don't mean like senior over 62. I mean, grown-up agents that have been around a long time. New York office, you don't go to New York and not see a Broadway show without 2 or 3 BRS Gage clients in it, if not more. And of course, that business has had its knees cut off. Those poor live performance actors that made that their entire life, poo-pooed the West Coast, poo-pooed on camera. I'm a Broadway actor. And then, of course, our shows, we had a lot of shows that went over the side because the cost of COVID was so high. And we have managed to stay busy this entire time, redoing our deals, remaking them, extending options, and getting money out of them for the actors, which means that this was an unprecedented situation that no one had planned for, not the unions, not the studios, not you and I, apparently not our president. And so this has been a wild, one thing that's always kept me agenting, and I'm headed into 40 years pretty soon, is that I just get sick of it and I just go, yeah, whatever. And then a whole new something would open up and there'd be so much more to learn. And in this instance, it's been interesting to see how people have behaved. Generally, they've been great, studios included, recognizing actors need money in their pockets. But I do have a bunch of actors now that were fully paid in the spring and the summer and are now working for free because they already got their money. Mm-hmm. And that's been hard for some people to accept. But, we got money into their pockets. And that matters.
That's insightful to know. So that's where it lands when you say you actually got in picked up the phone, got on email, and renegotiated and started having conversations?
Well, one of the things they didn't want to do, they had actors that they had gone through the elaborate process of choosing. And it's interesting, they just didn't want to lose them because that's an expensive process, the casting process.
Yeah.
And it can be lengthy, and they finally get the formula down. So it was interesting to me that everybody like dug in and said, let's hang on to who we have and let's make it work. HBO was great. Netflix drug their heels, but then they were great. You know who was not great? The networks. NBC, CBS, they drug their heels, they shifted around, they came up with excuses. They didn't, I have one actor that guested on Grey's Anatomy. What is that, ABC? Disney, ABC Disney. And they had wrapped the guest role on Grey's Anatomy, and that was in the very end of February, and Disney wouldn't pay them until July. They said, we're trying to figure out how we're going to pay people. Well, they worked. They were an actor. They went to work. They showed up. You need to pay them. So it's been sort of a crazy chaos. Ultimately, they've paid everybody, and everybody's square with the world now. Mm-hmm. All the buyers that had deals have paid well. But we've all had to be very patient with each other and sort of accept this new normal and try to play well with each other.
Yeah. So
get it wrong thing.
I mean, my list of questions for you it's taken up the rest of my notebook, so we'll get to whatever we get to.
Yeah, we talk.
I was going to ask you specifically then, about the white paper, the memo that went around. And do you have any specific insight on that or take on?
What are we talking about? I read everything. What are we talking about?
The white memo, the COVID regulations that were jointly agreed upon.
Oh, well, that went around and we'd already agreed on a lot of regulations. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, I have been an agent almost 40 years. I was an actress for a handful of years before that. I loathe the Screen Actors Guild. They are a guild, not a union. Todd Gunnar knows I could go on 1,000 years about this, but for the first time in my career, they have teeth, and that is the COVID regulations. They say you're shut down, you're shut down. And the other thing is getting everybody back to work and getting people on sets, despite how the federal government is handling things, despite how we've been misdirected and sent in wrong ways. Hollywood and the people in Hollywood know we got to keep going. We got to stay healthy. We got to stay away from crowds. We got to stay away from people that aren't aware and don't believe in masks. And every show that I have, other than one, a brand new show, Call Me Kat, that Leslie Jordan is on, every show that we have actors on, wherever it was in the world, Bulgaria, New Zealand, New York, Atlanta, Florida, LA, Canada, they've gotten shut down for COVID, but they have it devised in such a complex way that they have pods and overlapping circles, and they know who came in contact with who. They shut down for a day, 2 days. In a couple instances, big network shows have shut down for 2 weeks because they had a real problem on their hands, and then they get right back at it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Heard nothing but great things about how the industry has taken care of itself as people have gone back to work, and there is a lot of shooting around LA now because of it, and
it cost them an enormous amount of money, which pushed marginal shows or shows about to start over the edge and canceled. But network television has the most to lose, because if they start canceling and not producing new content, they've just bent over for streaming and cable and said, you win. So network is really, they have COVID buses that come in, and there's nurses and doctors and testing, and it's added 10% to a budget, and you go, 10%, what's that? Well, when an episodic fee is 2 to 5 million an episode, or 12 million, 10% is a lot.
Absolutely.
And the most careful are the big, huge studio films, just so you know. I've got someone headed down to Spider-Man, and man, oh Manischewitz, are they being careful? Because if they shut down, it's 2 million a day.
Yeah.
They lose.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I know you being a theatrical agent, TV and film is your purview, not commercials. But one of the things that I was thinking about, and just wondering if you have any thoughts about it, is this, we all know that so many of the commercials that are produced, the majority are non-union now.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this is a way to put that horse back in the barn, so to speak, because I've had a lot of students go on non-union sets, even for major clients, like huge name, like we're talking, global, Microsoft, Apple. I'm not saying them specifically, but as examples. And they are technically the employer for a commercial shoot. And when they have a non-union shoot, there are zero safety protocols and zero of the things that you're talking about. So I may have co-written an article, actually, that I'm going to submit to the trades.
I want to read it. I have a lot of opinions about that. So you know what? That's a really good point, and nobody has said that to me, because I have a client that I have loved and adored and supported and encouraged for 10 years, who reticent, dragging his heels, missed his mother, whatever, just couldn't get his shit together professionally. But I never gave up on him. And he is so busy shooting non-union commercials, I couldn't get him to join SAG. Well, at a certain point, you say, well, I guess you don't really want to. So now he's willing to join SAG, but he told me that the non-union commercials, it's a free-for-all. It's a free-for-all. The only advantage is there's not 30 people on a commercial. It's low budget. So even if it's a good, like say Microsoft or whoever, there's just a few people. So the cross-pollinating of virus is limited.
True.
But it's got him nervous.
It's not always like that, though. I mean, some of these commercials, shoot 3 to 7 days. They're there for a whole week if they're doing a series all at once. Wow. And they use actors in multiple spots and cut them up differently. So, I mean, I hear you, but it's not always that. And I've heard some horror stories and some people being flat out lied to, like asking specific questions, i.e., will we be tested? And then they get there and they say, no, well, there's no tests. And it's non-union, so there's no one to call.
I guess I don't know enough non-union actors that are shooting to hear those stories.
So, I do think it is interesting, and I am actually working on bringing it to broader public attention and to SAG, the non-union guild's attention.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you an interesting story. And this may be interesting to others, but I know, Gunnar, you'll be interested. And that is, I have a client coming back from production in New Orleans, and her husband has got a pre-existing condition. And she said, look, my husband doesn't want me to come home. He wants me to go to a hotel. And I think production should pay for a speedy instant COVID test and then put me in a hotel for 4 days and then test me again and then send me home. And I was like, oh my God, nobody has asked for that yet, but it's all new, right? So I was like, well, yeah, maybe. So I asked casting, and they came back with an answer that said Warner Brothers legal says we don't have to. Once we're done with you, you're on your fucking own. So she went to the leads of the series, because she's a recur that comes and goes. Mm-hmm. And they went, oh my God, yeah, we should be taken care of when we go home. And I said, look, don't talk to me. I can't be the tip of the sword on this. Go to SAG, tell SAG, because we're inventing this as we go. So nobody's brought that up. So meanwhile, exactly at that same time, I send a client off to do a Hallmark movie in Canada. Quarantining, doesn't step out of his hotel room for 2 weeks, does not step into the hallway. not into the hallway. Everything goes to the door and is left, and off they go. So another friend of mine has a client on the same Hallmark movie, and he said, well, I'm getting my client COVID tested in a hotel for 5 days when they come home. And I said, what? That's just come up. And he said, yeah, because Canada feels so confident they don't test the Canadians. You didn't know that, did you? And I was like, what the hell? And I'm not telling my actor yet, but I'm going to start the battle that they pay for it down here. That I get that too, because he's a lead getting a bunch of money, and it's new. It's a new, imagine a whole new thought, a whole new line of reasoning.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I just knew this was going to be an interesting conversation. Oh my gosh. So I know I have my thoughts and opinions, but so do you think now that casting is predominantly been online, do you think we're going to stay online?
Yeah, we are going to stay online for quite a while to come. And I'll tell you, the really sad news is that the casting offices the associates are retiring and going off to do other things. Yes. The casting offices are releasing the associates. The casting directors are going to have to do. I'm fortunate that I have a very successful agency. I was never laid off. I was never furloughed. I was never reduced. And we even kept all our assistants, even in the New York office. That's how flush everybody was. And otherwise, I'd be having to fuck around getting my Zooms organized, which I did badly, everyone. I was supposed to be earlier so Todd and I could tell dirty stories to each other before we started, but we didn't do it. But the casting directors are going to have to do everything themselves. I mean, yeah. It is a reduction in so much. It's unbelievable.
I hear you, and I've been hearing and experiencing, the same. Not that you need my validation, but yeah, I've just been hearing it all the way around, because there's still going to be casting. It's still a necessary step. But if you're not having people come in and out of your office, if you're just lining up a setup on Zoom, you don't need a ton of assistance for that.
But here's the good news, and this is super cool, and this is absolutely anecdotal to us, but it's proven out every week. We go, there's another one. And that is, there are a lot of actors that don't want to go to work right now. They don't want to leave the house. They don't want to get on a plane. They don't want to be around anyone. They don't trust it. All ages, not just seniors. And we have put more people to work since everything opened back up in the last 3 months that didn't usually even get in the room. It's shocking that these people have all gotten jobs because it's a level playing field. It's self-tapes. The usual go-to people don't want to self-tape. They want to, they should straight offer to me or something. I can't even explain it, but we have this wonderful actors, by the way. These are not D, C, B level actors, but they're actors that don't usually get a shot, and they're going to work. And they are making it work, and they are the most like, I can make this work. I have an actor who has diabetes. He's 70 years old. At first, we sent out an email in June and said, anybody not want to go to work? Tell us now. Let us know what your parameters are if you have any. Mm-hmm. And so a big studio film with an A++ director called about him going to Mexico for 3 weeks. And I called him thinking, it's not gonna. And he said, I have a friend, Christian Clemenson, that wonderful character actor, Christian Clemenson, Gunnar. I don't recognize him. Do you remember Boston Legal? He used to rub his legs. He was the weirdo in the back who did paperwork. Yes. Brilliant character actor. He said, Christian is on a set, and he said, you can't believe how careful they are. I said, well, I do know that. He goes, I feel comfortable with that. I feel totally, the airlines, the air is hospital grade. That's one thing. Like our offices are in beautiful high rises in Manhattan and LA, and nobody will go in the office. But in an airplane, they can redo those air recycling machines like that to make them safe. And they recycle the air every 3 seconds. It's the craziest thing in the world. And I've sent actors all over the world at this point since June, and no one has gotten sick. I mean, we haven't had no one sick. So I'm optimistic. It just takes a lot of rules and a lot of money.
Absolutely. I'm a couple of good friends of mine are on soaps. My friend Kate Linder, who did one of the Chattable.
Okay, is she listening? Is she kissing? I don't know if she's a romance character at this point, but is she kissing dummies with wigs? That old thing?
That was The Bold and the Beautiful. Kate's on Young and the Restless.
Oh, okay.
But it was real and it did happen.
Yeah.
I had it verified, either an actor's actual significant other or a dummy. But the clips of the dummies are hilarious. If you haven't looked them up on YouTube,
okay, yeah, I will.
It's hilarious. But the reason I bring it up is because the soaps were the first ones up at bat, because they got to knock out 5 episodes a week. We don't talk about soaps a lot in this climate anymore, right. But they operate like a family. They already trust each other. Like they had the foundation set up to go, we can figure this out. The whole Bell crew for the CBS soaps, yep. They got on it immediately.
Yeah, we 5 people on soaps, and I thought, oh, well, those people will never be able to, like Euphoria, where it's all love and lust and sex and drugs and rock and roll, which of course couldn't go back into production. They had to throw all the scripts were written, they threw them all away, and they're going to do some kind of limited series COVID response. But I thought the soaps would never make it, and everybody's gone back to work. We've shut down a couple times, but back they go.
Glow, unfortunately, didn't survive.
Right.
A show about wrestling. What are you going to do when you have people climb on top of each other? And
it was already very low budge. All the guest roles were scale plus 10. The guest roles.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody. There was no money to be made on Glow, so it was always marginal.
Yeah. It was delightful, though. It had Gina Davis at the end. She's in Mensa, and she's an archer, and she's a good actor. Like, what's not to love? Yeah. Have you heard of anecdotally any specific shows? One of the things that I was thinking of in all of this is, what if there was a well-known show already in production and there was just one person, but a key person, a series regular, who didn't want to come back on set? Is that a thing that can hold up a whole production? And have you heard?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Ruby Rose didn't want to go back to Batwoman. Was it Batwoman? I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they replaced her. She didn't want to come back. I know that who's the middle mom on Mom?
Anna Faris?
No, the mother of her.
Allison Janney?
Allison Janney said, my mom is 85 years old. I'm on the East Coast with her, and I'm not coming back till it's safe. But you see, like everything, we crawled through it. We crawled through the safety. We Call Me Kat, the show that Leslie Jordan, he sends me photos occasionally. All of the wardrobe, makeup, hair, full PPE, like in a hospital, right? Because it's the crew that gets sick.
Yeah.
The actors are, they got a lot to lose. They're being careful. It's the crew that overlaps more with one another. And they wear masks the whole time. And then they get to set and they rehearse in masks. Then they whip them off. The cameras roll. They do the scenes, and back they go on.
Well, as you know, and if any of you don't know, my business partner is Lauren Bertoni, and her alter life is to be a studio teacher. So the first day she said, she actually turned down, when there wasn't so much information and it was really new, she turned down turned down things just because we didn't know. And then we started to get a clear picture, long story short, and she has gone back to work. And, it made my heart stop at first, but the reports back have been so great. And she's one of the people who have let me know, aside from actors, how many precautions are being taken. And knock on wood, she's been safe, but masks and shields. And also, she's got this added layer of responsibility because she is responsible for the health and social welfare of the children on this. And I'm going to circle back to commercials just for 1 second, because the worst story I heard, and it was for it was for a globally known car brand. Literally had an adult throwing a kid up in the air and catching him. So like throwing a kid, and it was non-union. It was a car that many people have, and they're opting to shoot a non-union commercial. And that was the one where they promised testing and then didn't even have testing, no safety protocols, and
a child on set.
And what?
And a child on set.
And a child on set. And I said, send me the call sheet, because you know me, I'm not dumb and I like to cause trouble. So he sent me the call sheet, and because I was thinking they didn't even have a studio teacher, which by state law, even if you're non-union, you still need to have a studio teacher on set.
Child abuse. You have to, right. That's the laws protecting children.
And here's what the call sheet said. You'll find this interesting. It said studio teacher, and then they had a name listed, and then it said remote.
Oh, no!
Thank you. So they did hire one, because it is against the law to not hire one, but they let her work from her computer. The whole point at home, the whole point of a studio teacher is to physically be there on the set. And then they had this stranger throwing up a kid and catching him.
Who the hell cracks down on this? Labor?
Nobody.
State labor board? Well, nope. Somebody has to.
Well, but then somebody has to report it to the labor board, because the key is non-union means now the union's not involved at all.
You had an actor on that commercial shoot?
Yes. And I have the call sheet, and it's what inspired me and I co-wrote an article with someone about this topic, because it goes to the point, crew and actors are completely unprotected on non-union sets. And so many people think of non-union sets as small indie films or just friends getting together. No, sometimes union sets are assembled with some of the wealthiest corporations.
Oh, well, they're getting that way. It's 75% commercials are non-union now.
So we got to change that, or because now people are going to get sick because of it and possibly die, because they don't have the same protocols as all the safe union sets that we're talking about. There is a big, big gap in between. Right. And a lot of, younger and newer actors are being made vulnerable. And it's something that I'm very passionate about and very upset by. And I
agree 100%. The other thing is, we're creating, and I say I'm part of this industry, we're creating an entire generation of no residuals. And it's residuals that make an actor have longevity and be able to hang in there and show support for the years they've put in. I mean, we have actors now that are taking their retirement, 60s, 70s. They're laughing all the way to the bank. It's a good retirement, but the young actors and some of the deals we make, it's such limited. And an example of this is not just non-union, but when you think about Disney now making a TV series for Disney Plus, and you're going to make money on that, and then you'll make residuals. But what's going to happen is it's what we're calling a four-wall. And that is Disney is making it for Disney's kingdom. And so that it's not going to air anywhere else. Epix won't pick it up. Netflix won't carry it for a while and get more viewers. It will only ever live Disney Plus. So it reduces what actors can make in the long run. Really tough. It's really tough. All of this has to be, I think they did a magnificent job. Again, I've been so mad at SAG for years. They did a great job on this latest negotiation, in that they said, what we really want is money from streaming. That's where the big money is now. We want those residuals to go up. We want that to be, and it's absolutely true. It's all in the ether. They have metrics. They can count all that and figure all that out. And but it is when you're playing for just one team, Disney Plus in the Disney kingdom with the Disney wall around it, you do not have the opportunity to make as much money. So then that has to be addressed somehow, because it's residuals that make an actor long-lived.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I not to get distracted, I just noticed some of the comments in the chat. Kate Linder is here, by the way. Hi, Kate.
Hey.
Kamala Lopez is here. Kamala is the person that I co-wrote the article with. Kamala Lopez is one of the people who helped get the ERA ratified in Virginia earlier this year, and it would have been bigger news if everything else in the world hadn't happened. But also one of the things that our awful president is doing is sitting on the actual ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. For women, like adding it to the actual Constitution, because we still had a few states we needed to get, and Kamala helped get one.
He takes his cues from Mitch's graveyard. Just set it aside and leave it over there. Go ahead, you little people out there working on your little ideas. Just set it aside.
He's the worst. The absolute worst. If I could circle back to Broadway, I wanted to ask specifically, we talked about it to some degree. I saw in the trades a couple weeks ago that there was kind of like an official announcement that no sooner than May 2021 at the soonest. Can you speak more to what you imagine the outlook is for Broadway, or how your New York?
It's never going to make it. So that you understand, having produced theater myself, there is $1 figure you care about, and that is asses in seats. And when you look at Broadway shows or any theater that survives, it's in the red or the black, it's in the black if they can fill up those seats. So what's his name in England? Rice? He tried to prove a point, because London was doing pretty good for a minute.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He started a show, and then they were going to social distance the audience, and they were rehearsing the show and developing the show and getting ready for the show and selling tickets, and not many tickets were selling. But then they realized, and I don't know what brain surgeon hadn't figured this out sooner before they spent millions of dollars, that unless they filled the house up, it's a loss. And even the most rabid theater goers, creators, geniuses can't afford to lose. So we have a lot of actors who have Broadway deals, rep deals that have been suspended, and they keep giving them new dates. And I admire that. And I've told a couple of friends who are producing, look, set a date, give yourself a goal, move towards something. But they just keep bumping it. No one believes for a second that they'll be in those theaters breathing on each other and singing on an audience full of people. And it will only work if the audience is full. So really, live performance, concerts, live theater, Broadway, until we are a vaccinated nation, they can't do it. They'll just lose money, and people won't want to go. I don't want to go. I miss live theater so much it hurts. I miss New York so much it hurts. And I wouldn't dream of it. I don't even want to go to the movies.
A lot of people are in your camp. So I think it's Tim Rice that you were talking.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And they got started, and then there's Grigri. Hey, Grigri. They got started, and then they said, oh, well, we can't pay our bills with a third of an audience. No, there it is, money.
So this is such a long period of time. What happens to the actual theater houses in New York City in particular?
They're closing. I have a client, Will Swenson. He's married to Audra McDonald. Will's done a lot of Broadway. They're closing theaters. They're just closing them down. They're gonna tear them down. They're gonna build. I mean, what happens to every space that was a restaurant that the restaurant can't keep it and moves away, and then it just sits and waits? Same thing.
What about, as you heard, if you didn't know, Sarabeth is from Oregon. I have a love affair with the whole state. What do you think is in store for Ashland?
Oh my God, it's heartbreaking. We have a wonderful actor that's part of the agency that came out of one of the theater training programs on the East Coast 20 years ago. And he just did a bunch of rep theater around the country, got to Ashland and said, "This is for me," and has been under contract for 15 years. And he's done a guest here or there once in a while, something. He's Hispanic, so that should have, but he was happy. He had a wife and children, and he loved Ashland, Oregon, and he loved it just was the perfect lifestyle. Well, he's now very available to us. He's like, hoping for anything to happen. And I've got a few of the young Broadway actors that I'm close to that they're doing Zooms, they're being paid to do things. Audra McDonald and Will Swenson, her husband, our client, and then like 3 or 4 other Broadway stars, they've come up with a Zoomed series that they're all going to shoot. And it's a 4-year deal, but it's not going to go 4 years because once people can be in the same room, unless it takes off, they don't need to keep making it. But it's what is a builder, a handyman? He says, I got a workaround. They're doing workarounds to try to come up with June Squibb. We represent June Squibb, who is an American institution at 91, nominated for an Oscar. June is doing a movie right now with a big budget. One of the producers of Veep, writer director, wrote it. And she's shooting actors all over the country in their homes. God only knows what it's going to look like. And she has a big budget, and June is in it, and in her living room, in her house dress. It's like, what's that going to look like? But it's a workaround, and it's keeping creative minds busy. So important. Me, I just drink.
I'm switching lanes, still in the industry, but over to writing, because last time we saw each other in person, we were talking about, the WGA and, in the situation with writers and firing their agents because of packaging deals, et cetera, and so forth. Has the dust settled on that? I feel like it got
completely. Everybody's making deals, making deals, meaning it started with sort of the mid-sized agencies or the boutiques with a literary department started creating their own template with the WGA, creating their own agreement. And it has escalated and escalated and escalated. And I think the last 2 are WME and UTA. And I think they're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And all of the writers, they didn't want to fire their agents, so they kept relationships with them.
Correct.
That's what I mean. Like, you're fired, but let's have lunch tomorrow. Like, it was like so ridiculous. It did give some people a chance to, get on their high horse, but those were generally the writers who didn't work. I found the angriest writers typically were the writers who were not working. So they have relationships now. The Writers Guild had to capitulate on some stuff. For instance, the Writers Guild, one of their big asks, which was ludicrous, and they wasted too much time on this, and they could have made a deal early on, but they wanted access to the books of talent agencies. Now, I ask anyone here, do you want to turn over your bank statements to Gunnar and I just because we might have a relationship? And I'm going to show you, you're going to show me everything you spend money on and where your money goes and how it goes and where it goes. No, nobody's going to do that. And so the WGA felt that they had the right to look at that. And that was the biggest stumbling block of all the ego and my dick is bigger. It was like, how dare you look at my accounting to determine if I'm doing a good enough job. I mean, it was truly crazy. But the head of the Writers Guild is a rabble rouser. He's not a smart deal maker. He's just the pendulum swing. We need that stuff. I think AOC and those rabble rousing girls are fantastic. It doesn't mean we're going to end up over there. And Bernie's vision is utopian and belongs on another planet. I like it, but it doesn't mean we can live that way. but you got to swing the pendulum way far, which is what the Writers Guild, the president did. And he's made some differences now. So everything has calmed down. I'll tell you that in the literary world, they're going gangbusters. Everybody's buying, selling, developing. They can do everything over Zoom. They don't like it. But to do a writer's room over Zoom is very challenging for some of the showrunners, and they have balked, but it's the only way. I have a few actors, for instance, I have an actor that some people are just impatient and like, why can't we be in the same room together? I have an actress who's going to be added to they're going to reboot a huge TV series. And it was a straight offer, big fancy actress, big fancy, and she said, I want an in-person meeting. Well, we were like, what? You can't have that. Nobody can have that. Like, it was like the most ridiculous. They're going to prove to me how much they want me. And we were like, look, he's probably not even in LA, the creator, rebooter, whatever. And, and he wasn't. So but that's sort of kind of like, but we still need to be in a room. No, it's just not, you don't. If they can hire all of our actors now off of self-tapes. I have one actor who is the best self-taper I have ever. They are a masterclass. He told me that he tested for 5 pilots. He lived in New York and they flew him out 5 times. And he said that he wasn't a good self-taper, and then he figured out the secret, which I keep saying, what's the secret? And he has 4 jobs right now. He's 30 years old. Our hearts have been broken that the world doesn't see what a genius he is. And because the world has turned to self-tapes, he's doing 2 episodes, incredible role on This Is Us, and I don't even like the show, an episode of 911 Lone Star, and he's recurring on the new season of Mornings, and it's all self-tapes have done it, because his self-tapes are so like nobody you've ever seen. And in the numbing world now, I've been saying for a long time, if you're self-tape, don't serve the material, fucking serve yourself. Because if you don't pop out of those never-ending stream of there's another actor serving the material, you won't get hired.
Yes, ma'am. I absolutely teach my students, especially in my master classes with more advanced actors, working actors, I call it basically serve the material plus. Go faster, push into it more. You're a person standing against a blue fucking piece of paper. Jazz it the fuck up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite self-tape guys in town is a guy named Joseph Kell. Mm-hmm. But he works in his garage, but until COVID's gone, for his own personal reasons, he won't tape people. And one of his backgrounds is puce. Does anyone know what puce is? It's a dark, dark red. And it is an unusual, instead of blue making blue eyes pop, and it's moody. It feels like Game of Thrones. Which of course it's probably not appropriate for This Is Us, or is it? But he has gray backgrounds. He has dirty, dirty, dark green, and they make all the difference in the world for people who are doing self-tapes. Don't just stick with a white and a blue, for God's sakes, No,
I do think it matters. And, for a moody, dramatic, intense thing, I appreciate the few people I also know who have different colors than not dark and moody for comedy. I mean, you really need to think through the whole thing the way I advise people to think through like their headshot choices and backgrounds. And it's like, oh, well, that's, great. I don't know why you're wearing a suit against a cinder block wall. Or
yeah, what is that?
Well, there's the point being is there's a way for everything that eye is seeing to coalesce and come together and help narrate the story that's being told. Because we call them auditions, but it's still storytelling.
Correct.
Right. And the more everything makes visual sense, the likely you are to pop. So I get what his secrets are. What is, generally speaking, what are your clients' feedback? I don't know, I guess I'm anecdotally asking, how are people feeling that this is the only way now with the self-taping? Are people having a good reaction, bad reaction?
Well, it had been growing for so long
Yeah.
that there was a tipping point of people going, okay, I'm all in. Me and 3 friends we bought the equipment and we worked it out and we do each other. And then there were a few, and I will say that they were older actors that were like, I want to fucking go in a room. Or character actors, where they really can work the room. They really know how to connect with. And now the last 8 months, it has been a browbeating of clients that didn't want to tape. And we've been like, it's okay, but you won't go to work for years. And one of the things I have always understood and tried to get actors to understand, if you don't take a job, go to work, get a job, take a job in June, the world doesn't see you in the fall or the spring. And every season that you let skip your working of any kind as an actor, more the calendar moves on. And it's so easy for actors who pass and don't want to, and this and that. And 18 months later, there's nothing coming out. I have an actress that I just had to convince to do a big studio Marvel film. Oh my God, it was ugly. And I said, look, in 2022, you are going to thank me because you're going to come out in this huge film. Right now, you're mad. You don't like, it's not. And in 2022, you're going to go, yeah, I'm part of that. And she was like, okay, I get it.
Well, also this has been somewhat covered, but I'll put a direct point on it. Do you need to be in LA to forge a TV and film career now?
No, unless you do not have the financial wherewithal to get here on a moment's notice if you had to. Really, that is the limiting factor. And it's just like that at the top of this, I said about that crazy Zoom call I had where there was 6 or 7 of us and only one person was in LA. And the rest of us were spread all over the globe and nobody cared. And nobody cared, I might add. Working from home, working from anywhere. The only person who has to show up is the person on the set. So
I have students in the Netherlands.
yeah.
Now I have students in South Africa. Now, literally, our student population has gone global in the last 6 months.
Right.
Anyway, not to get into what we did, but obviously we had to translate this, or go under, but right. I had no resistance to it. Right. Maybe it's the improviser in me, but I just went,
but you've always had your websites and you've always, it's been hard for a lot of people. They had to just step back and go, I need a tech person and I need you to save me. I've watched a lot of teachers struggle in the beginning with making the decision. Not that they couldn't do it, but just saying, okay, I give in. But that's like the actors who didn't want to self-tape for so long. And now it's like self-tape or you've stepped away from the business for a while.
Well, and then, then I'll combine, acting training, comedy specifically is what I do, as we know, but then just in theater, and then bring that into so many people for so long of saying you needed improv training for work in TV and film comedy. We know that suggested a lot, whether we believe it's true or not, have some opinions, but that it's also small theater. So when I say I'm combining Broadway to like kind of that note, I just wonder what your thoughts are on, I mean, they're still open, but if you were to take an improv class, it would be online. And I personally think it's going to be that way for a while. I just wondered if you had just even thought about, and by the way, did you know that Second City is for sale?
Oh, is it?
The whole brand. Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, I got an email from somewhere that said and I thought UCB, that we're looking for diverse and we'll give them scholarships. And I thought, I've heard that before, but I thought they had shuttered totally. UCB, but
I mean, they've got to close their doors for audience the same way as all theater. That's kind of the link I was and they're not going to open
They're
till.
trying to move forward. They're trying to move forward. I don't know. You know, the great thing about you've got clients all over the world. You are in LA where the weather is good. You could go out in a park. You could really be 12 feet apart and do some improv. I mean, you know, that's totally doable, but it's a lot of steps to go through to try to make it work. So you might as well figure out how to do it this way.
Yeah, I guess it's the myriad things that have been on my mind.
It remains a valuable tool because it's swinging a heavy bat. To get on a set or to be in a casting room or on an audition and they say, and now our callbacks are Zooms. We haven't talked about that. Oh my God, we haven't talked about that at all. That's been quite a challenge for actors. There's been a lot involved in that. And the callbacks where they're going to give you notes and you're on the Zoom and they go, can you try it this way? And there's a whole bunch of executives and and the actor can't decide whether to look at the camera or to look at the actor or how do they connect if it's a chemistry read has been a shit show. It's really been rough because frankly, you and I could say how we think it should go, but other people have different opinions.
Yeah.
Producers and casting directors. And the thing about improv is it's swinging a heavy bat so that when you get that call back and they go, okay, just riff on that. Let's go with that. Riff where? With what? There's no lines on my page. Well, just keep going. Improv. What? So anyway, you see.
Yeah. Yes. I hadn't thought about callbacks so much because, you know, one of the adaptations that we've made, because partly the reason it wasn't so rough for us is because we were an on-camera comedy training.
Right. You were already working with cameras.
So look, a camera is a camera and this frame is the frame. It's the same frame, really. So anyway, we have worked out, do I look into the camera? Do I look at one person? But that's even pretty easy to mitigate and figure out. But when you've got a whole group and you're trying to chemistry test, like you're saying, I can see how that could be a bit confusing.
Yeah, and they give these elaborate instructions, but they're not thorough enough. Or they're to one actor, you know, he's doing a chemistry read and then they want you to, you know, look at the camera, don't look at the actress, but you're trying to connect with the actress. And then the next one will give you different instructions. And so you have to be pliable and open up to, okay, because I have found that some actors are like, that doesn't make sense. I'm not going to do that. Well, those are the instructions. Just like me today, not reading the email saying, get on early. Whoops. I need an assistant.
We all need assistance.
Yeah, I know.
So you already mentioned, you know, Canada. It was news to me when you said that they're testing the Americans, not the Canadians so much. But what is not news to me is how much production is navigating to Vancouver, Toronto as well. But Vancouver's exploding with sound stages. Shooting in Canada, not new at all. Right. I did not realize the investment that city has in building new sound stages up the wazoo. So
we're counting on it continuing. And it's also part of, so when we send an actor up, they are underwritten by a production because you can't cross the border as an American. So you can only cross if you have a job you're going to. Yeah. You cross if you have someone is going to swears that they're responsible for your quarantine. That can be an individual or that can be the Sutton Place Hotel where everybody, you know, Hollywood North. You not to leave the room. You can't go out and walk the hallway. You stay in your lair. Now here I am learning that they're not testing which is weird, the local actors and staff crew, because the numbers have gone way up in Vancouver. And we've thought for a month now that they were going to shut Vancouver down, though they haven't. The actor I have who gets out, I said, how's your quarantine going? He gets out on Tuesday on election day. he said, yeah, it's thank you for asking. It's been hard, but I'll walk out the door Tuesday morning and go for a walk with my mask on. That's his big plan, because you still have to be super, super careful and respectful.
Yeah, I have friends, students who've shot it, with Tyler Perry since all of this, and
Right.
he's got his own unique situation because he's got his own controllable ecosystem.
Right.
He'll literally send his own plane to come get you and then bring you there because they have housing on his studio lot as well. So it truly is unique in the world that it's privately owned and so self-contained. Like all the meals brought out, here's an exercise instructor, space out, we'll do some exercise during the day. Sounded like
the Canada thing, it's a country that believes in the mask, that believes in keeping people safe. They said that if we had behaved like Canada is behaving, we would have only lost 40,000 people.
Mhm.
If we had done what they've done, and they're functioning, the restaurants are opening, people are going out to eat.
Oh, absolutely. They're nowhere near in the condition we are.
Yeah.
Well, in a minute, I have to transition over to their questions. I love that this whole conversation was very, of the moment. That's
Yeah.
one of the things I go to you for. Before we get to other things, because I know that it always helps people when I talk to you. If you could just talk about the 2020 reality of what an agent's job is and what the differences are between an agent and a manager. I just always love hearing you talk about that.
Okay, well, keep me on track if you don't like what I say. So this is an interesting time for agents and managers. A lot of, I won't say a lot, I'll say some of my rep friends from the beginning have sort of plowed ahead and tried to sign people and tried to get me to sign their people if they're managers. And some have done what we've done, and that was we made a company decision in May when it was clear this was not temporary,
Yeah.
that we would not sign any new clients, that we would not seek out and sign any new clients. And the New York office hasn't signed one, not one. And they have 350 clients. And we have signed 3, one of which is a go-between New York and us. 2 of those actors, one is an actor that's been around a long time and all of us had worked with at one point. Another was a ethnic character actress that we all knew who she was and was a super fan. And then we just signed one more, a Hispanic woman in her 50s who has done nothing but series to series to series. And that's 3 in an agency bi-coastal with 500 clients. That's how many people we've signed. And in this period of time, maybe 2 clients have left us too. I think it's 2. And so there's not a lot of movement. Now, there's a frustration out there if you don't have as solid a list as we do, that you're trying to move your clients, you're trying to get some traction, you're trying to sign clients, whether you're an agent or a manager, but it is not a great climate. So every actor that I have spoken to that is not my client to give them advice during this period of time, I have these kids that, for instance, our agency, we sign 5 to 10 kids out of the big college theater programs, the big ones, Yale and Juilliard. Every season, we sign 5 to 10 of those kids.
Right.
Most of them want to go to New York. They want to be on Broadway, or they're dancers or singers or, like that. But not one, we didn't sign one. And when you think about all those hundreds of kids and their frustration level with this pandemic and what it's done to their careers and how they feel their careers have been knocked sideways, I just tell every actor, get a job, bank your money. This too will pass. Don't worry about pushing your acting career ahead. It'll just drive you insane. Study, be ready. Just do all the stuff you'd be doing except worrying about the representation. And it feels counterintuitive, but it's just not a time to press into it. I mean, our decision was not just not sign, but oh my God, this is a fucking global disaster. Let's take care of the people we have. That was the decision. So I know that managers seem to be more active in moving clients and signing clients, and for agents, we don't need to add more clients. We don't need to add more clients. There's reduced roles, but there is an opportunity, as I told you, for actors who don't normally get in a room to go to work, because it's all about the self-tape, and they're being available, they're getting it done, and they're being prepared and ready to do it. Always with actors, it's preparation. Are you ready? Always.
That's very helpful. If you could just say the difference between an agent and a manager, because I find the term fiduciary duty very sexy.
I love that when I talk fiduciary dirty to you. So you can quote me. So I have been an agent. Well, my whole representation career is almost 40 years. That's terrible. I'm old. And there was a dark decade where I was a manager. It was 12 years. I call it the dark decade. And it just wasn't enough action for me. I didn't believe that a manager should have 50 clients like they do now, or 150 like they do now. I had 12. I never had more than 12, often 9. And it wasn't enough action for me. I didn't have enough information coming in. I didn't want to be at a big management company, because I wanted at that point in my life to choose who I worked with. And as an agent, your boss says, here's an actor, you're going to represent him. And so, you don't really get a decision there. So I was on my own. I got to choose who I worked with. But because I was not the attorney, as a manager, I had the legal responsibility to my client, but it was not as a fiduciary responsibility as an agent is, because an agent is bonded by the state, and you are required to keep your client's information private and their deals private. And then that isn't even as high as an attorney's, which is an attorney privilege, which we hear about on every legal drama. And that is anything I say to you, unless I'm intending in the future to hurt others, anything that I say I've done, you can't tell anybody that I've murdered. But agents sort of have that. They have that a little bit with deals. We can't share numbers with anyone. But managers, it's a free-for-all. And it used to be that managers was the first step. If you couldn't get an agent, you got a manager, and then they'd find you an agent. But now, over the years, as the business has changed, so many agents have been dumped onto the market that then became managers, that like when I was a manager, I was always the most senior person in any team, and I would do the negotiating. I mean, I don't think in those 12 years there was ever an agent who'd been around longer or was smarter than I was, where I said, yeah, you're in charge. I just did it. And then I would let the agent close the deal, because legally, only an agent can sell you. Only an agent can close the deal. And yet, as we say in Hollywood, it's not right, it's not moral, it's not legal, but it's industry standard. And that is, managers shouldn't be selling and negotiating, and later the client could come back and bite them in the ass and sue them and get their commissions back. But they still act as sales representatives, and that's what talent expects of them. There's very few managers nowadays that go, oh, I don't do anything, I don't look at breakdowns, I just make sure my client is, ready or whatever.
Like kind of groomed in a way. I know it
used to be groomed. How are you dressed? Read your sides with me. Grooming. Like actually managers still continue to do with kid actors, child actors, little actors. Is prep them and make sure they understand what's going to happen and who they're going to meet, and be nice and smile and say hello. Well, that just doesn't work in a fast moving business like ours now. It's so fast. It's so fast. If I don't jump on those breakdowns the minute they come out, if I'm 4 hours late or 5 hours late, the appointments will have gone out already, and I won't get my folks in. So you got to go. Everything is fast.
Absolutely. And you got to know how to do it for yourself on your own at home. So
be ready.
Ginger Rogers, we're all dancing backwards in heels now. It's harder. But if you get the system we're living in, it's not harder. That's
right. It just is what it is.
and we're highly adaptable. So on that note, I am going to transition, but I subject all of my guests to a very quick lightning round before I go to Q&A. So it's just question and answer, stimulus response. I've got a very short list of questions, so I'm just going to throw them at you, and the first thing that comes to your head. Okay,
Yes.
so here we go. 3, 2, 1. What does comedy mean to you?
Everything. It's how I survive what we're going through.
If you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be?
More people telling the truth.
Do you think of yourself as successful?
I do, because I'm happy.
What's a funny word?
Disaster.
Those all of them make me laugh. What's more important, self-expression or true respect from your peers?
Wow. At different times in my life, I'd say different things, but I'd say self-expression.
Is there anyone not invited to your funeral?
Oh, Donald Trump. Guys, no, come on. I'm best friends with every ex-husband, every boyfriend. If they've been in my life, they're still on the list. They're on the list, and here they come. And they meet each other. Oh, yeah, I know about you. You. No, it's all okay. Just Trump.
Is there anything every human being on the planet has a responsibility to do?
Empathy. You have a responsibility for empathy.
Absolutely. All right, that was it. That's
I
all.
love it.
Yeah, it's just a way to get to know you a little bit more in a different kind of way. All right, so let's see if we've got a few questions. Any Sean Connery stories? We just lost the great Sean Connery, and I do know you know a lot of people. Is there any chance that you ever crossed paths?
I have a Sean Connery story. So my brother-in-law, Chris Barrett, who owned Metropolitan, got a hold of a script in the late 80s. It was before Sean Connery did The Untouchables, which relaunched him. He was sort of out of fashion and he hadn't been around. And my brother-in-law was like, Sean Connery is a superstar. Sean Connery should be the biggest star in the world. Sean Connery. And so he got his phone number in Spain. And he started calling him, and he would talk to him on what do you call it? He was on speaker, and so I'd come in and he'd be on with Sean Connery, and Sean wanted to go back to work, and he was just hanging. Literally, it was such a good story because it's about the ebb and flow of actors, and we think of Sean Connery as this looming icon over international art, and he was like in the 80s available, and nobody was hiring him. And he was great. And then he got hired to do The Untouchables, and then he was untouchable again. And never worked out. But yeah, my brother-in-law got a hold of that phone number and was calling him, and I'd hear him talk, and he did marvelous. I could still call him right now and say, give me some Sean Connery, and he would do some Sean Connery conversations.
That is an amazing story. Also, is there anything Chris Barrett won't do?
No. One time the phone rang and he answered it. This is in the same period of time. And it wasn't Joni Mitchell, but another singer like that. She said, hi, I'm looking for Helen. And he said, it might as well be Joni Mitchell. Is this Joni Mitchell? And she said, yes. And then they had a whole conversation. No, there's nothing he won't do. No.
Hilarious.
Yeah,
Somebody was circling back to the self-tape person that you said that you loved the backdrops.
Joseph Kell. The reason Joseph Kell is so good, it's not just his backdrops, obviously, but he understands that his job is not only to production-wise shoot well, but one of the biggest shortcomings in self-tape is sound. So he early on, before hardly anyone was doing self-tapes, had great sound. But the other thing was he recognized that his voice didn't need to be the loudest voice on the self-tape. So that not only did he do great technical work shooting, was it moody backgrounds that felt sophisticated and European, but he would give them good he was a good acting partner, and he was subtle so that he served them, but his performance didn't take over the audition. And that is such a fine fucking line. And every self-taper person that I work with, an actor's I say, look, this is what I need. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear your performance. It needs to be there, but not be a part of this. I have a new Bose sound bar, and there's a button on this ridiculous. It's the biggest remote I've ever seen in my life. I feel like it could power the Pentagon. And there's a button on there that amplifies dialogue. That's the greatest thing in the world. So that as you get older, so that all the miscellaneous sounds and the background music can drop away and the dialogue is brought up. It's incredible. And that's what needs to happen with these self-tapes. They need to be about the actor who's there, because you have your mom do it or your boyfriend do it, and they're standing right over the phone saying their lines. And that's, such a mistake over and over technically.
Awesome. Well, we were cruising, it's our self-tape place, which is called the self-tape place, was rolling right along, because I only opened that in September, and we were perfecting it. Look, I wouldn't say it was A+ out of the gate, but it was a new business and we were getting it rolling, and I worked so hard, but I am one of those people who will not show up in person. The phone rings constantly now. It's now that things are going back, and I'm like, sorry, I just am not gonna risk things to hang out with a stranger. So I'll Zoom it up and read with whoever. But
if you could figure out a booth, Todd, Gunnar, if you could figure out a booth where you're in the booth with, and you're not in the same room, you could do it.
I've been thinking about that. It's just, but
because, we've been through hell and back with actors who were willing to do ADR and actors who were like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to a dirty mic. Well, it's not a dirty mic. They're cleaning like motherfuckers. Everybody wants to succeed. This is not Washington, D.C. Hollywood is trying to push through. And everybody, their jobs depend on it. Nobody wants to go home again. So it can be done, but you have to feel confident, you have to feel confident.
Yeah, I would have to find a passion for. I've thought about it a lot because I get asked a lot. But I'm just, the short answer is I've got to find a passion before I would explore it. And also I'm teaching my cojones off. Which is what I'm really in this for anyway. So things are growing, and I feel very blessed.
Hey everybody, I want to say one thing that I have quoted Gunnar on, and I've thought about it a lot over the years, and it's helped me in instances. And that is when I was first starting to speak to some of his classes. And I've taught over the years many workshops and taught, and I came out of acting 40 years ago, but I said, how can you stand some of these actors that are not talented? How are you able to keep at it and keep your energy like you do? And he said, oh my gosh, because it's their dream to be an actor. My dream is to teach them. And do you remember saying that? Do you say that to everybody? And it's such a great, because we are all on our own here. So you don't need my approval or Gunnar's approval or anything. This is your dream. Just as what I do, if it benefits you, the collision of our souls and what we try to do, hallelujah. But I really enjoy what I do. And I'm reminded of that now being in Oregon, like, well, I could farm. I could come here and farm and be done with the whole thing. But I love getting to the other side and convincing that actress to do that huge film, and in 2 years, maybe she'll thank me. I love the psychology of that part of the job. So just remember, it's your dream. We are all self-invented in this business. It doesn't matter who you're plugged into. It doesn't matter who your mother or father is. You still have to look in the mirror. You still have to convince people you're the right one. It's a singles tennis match. And, Gunnar believes in your dream.
Oh, thank you for remembering that. I do appreciate that. And I also, something happened in my journey as a teacher where I also realized that teaching anything, I think, in the arts is you're also helping people find themselves.
Yes.
And I know my filter is acting broadly, more specific comedy acting. But you got to put your shingle up as something. I I like people. And I'll bitch about them because a lot of them are dumb. But at the end of the day, I am infinitely curious about the human condition and why people do the things that they do. And we can explore that through story, and that manifests in scenes and sides. And, you know, when you put a human being together with the words that somebody else wrote, there is always potential for magic.
Right. Yeah. It's story, folks. It's story.
It is all story. It's all archetypes. It's tropes. It's what, it's, word to mouth. It's what we watch. It's nursery rhymes. It's pop songs. All of it is our collective consciousness gathers in all these various ways that we can communicate and tell stories with each other. And I haven't gotten bored of that yet. What have you been watching during lockdown, or is anything on your radar recently?
Okay, yes. So I'm a super fan of Nordic noir. Now, if you're not clear on what Nordic noir is, it came out of Scandinavia. It is where there's a murder, there's a mystery, and there is the environment. And generally the environment, the weather, the conditions, the mountainous terrain is a character in the piece.
Very
It's so important to the storytelling. So it's Nordic noir. So I'll spend 1,000 hours watching subtitled series from all over the world. And I've never cared for anything Russian, and I sample everything. I watch everything. I watch everything even before the shutdown, but then like come to Sarah and she'll tell you what to watch. But there is a new show on Netflix that is such great television, and it's called To the Lake, and it's Russian. It is Nordic noir. They're trapped in cold Russia. A pandemic has hit. They're escaping Moscow, and they just need to get to the lake. So it is a road film. It's 8 episodes. It ends on an unbelievable moment. My mouth hung open at times. And now I'm waiting for season 2, which God only knows when that'll be. But that is super cool. But your Netflix is not my Netflix. And if you don't know to look for it, I mean, I'm lucky because it sends me down rabbit holes because I'm into this weird stuff. The other thing is that I never paid any attention to a series called Vikings that was made for the History Channel. Oh my God. And I was like, the History Channel, what the fuck? They don't know how to make fiction TV. So I'm stuck. I'm a Swede. Schedeen is Swedish. So it keeps offering it to me. It wants me to watch. Finally, fucking A, I'll watch a Vikings episode. It's extraordinary. It is a huge budget. It's historically based as much as the information they have from a bunch of people that never wrote anything down. And the actors are high-level actors. I mean, talk about witness protection. Who knew all these magnificent actors? And it's fantastic. So that's what I'm
awesome. Did you ever see a film called Let the Right One In?
No.
It is a Swedish horror romance film.
Sounds good.
It is so the description of what you said. And strangely, they made a stage adaptation out of it. The film was made in 2008, and I actually saw the stage production in Dublin, Ireland on a trip to Ireland. I was like, is that weird Swedish movie I saw that subtitle? And it sure the fuck was. And it was one of the scariest things I have ever seen on a stage. One of the best and scariest things. I love this.
I hope I can find it because Boo Boo's here. She came out to the farm to spend the night from Portland. Yeah. So she likes scary stuff. I would never watch it alone, but maybe we'll watch it.
It's not, like American scary. It's very eerie, and it has to do with the environment.
Noir is you're waiting for shit to happen. Nothing happens, but you're waiting. Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait till you watch it. I loved it. One of my favorite things. What do actors do to get in front of casting agents if you don't have an agent?
Wow, I don't know what's going to happen now with that. I, I, they should be doing virtuals of these. Like that should work now. Somebody should be making that happen. And maybe they are, and I'm just not tuned into it.
Are you talking about generals, or what do you mean?
Yeah, well, they don't even want to do generals. I'm talking about put together some kind of a Zoom and a consortium where actors do scenes and casting directors can sample them. I mean, that we might get around the rules now if there was a formula way to do that, because I don't know how to meet a casting director. You can't wait on them at a restaurant. You can't send your photo in because everybody's working at home. I was on the phone with Sarah Finn. We were on the phone working on a deal the other day. Sarah Finn does all the Marvel movies, huge. It's always top secret. Oh my God, Disney. And she was like, hold on. Her dogs were barking. She goes, I'm getting a delivery. And I said, okay. And then she went off and she came back. She goes, oh my God, how did they know where I live? So you can't find them. You can't get at them. Even us, we have cell phones to the assistants, and they're in heaven, except when they need to reach us, of course, then, two can play at that game. But it's tough out there. I don't know what's going to come out of this. I think that they're going to have to sample to find new actors. The only thing that'll work is hard work and reps that send your materials in. For instance, I did this recently. Last week, we've had a huge influx of New York stage actors come out that were part of our New York office. But as I told you, they weren't on camera people. They were dancers or singers, or, it wasn't really, an actor's an actor, and yet pretty hard to press into a new community when there's not a lot of roles and there's already people on the line ahead of you. And but two actors, we've been having them do self-tapes to get them warmed up and pitching them. Two actors really have popped. They're not overacting, they're not stage acting on camera, they're subtle, they're interesting, they're making interesting choices. Like, really, they can go right to work on a set and nobody's going to go, oh, I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. So I sent those out. I put together pitches on both of those guys, and their self-tapes and who they are, and explained they're from New York, and sent them out to 10 of my main casting directors where I felt they belonged. And about half of the casting directors responded and said, great, thank you, I'll take a look. They need to know more people, but how do they do it? They can't just rely on us. There's not enough hours in the day for me to do that project with everybody,
No, the upshot is it's time to get creative, kids. Yeah, this is a dark time in many ways, but it's opening up opportunities.
I say prepare and plan for the future. Stockpile your money, be organized, study, prep, be ready. So we had an actor come to us through a big Broadway star client of ours, and he is New York City Ballet. He danced Romeo. So where he's at, right? And he's 26. And he's 5'11", straight ballet leading man. So he comes out here to LA and I'm ready to go on camera. And he's going to come out of West Side Story, which is now delayed for 2 years. That was going to be the big break to put him in acting. He was the main jet of 5 jets. And so everybody in the office was like, this is, I said, well, this is our brand. This is on brand for us. This super, super talented kind of guy. And dancing is valuable now. And singing is valuable now for regular actors and roles. And so I sent him side scripts, information, breakdowns on 3 different roles and said, do 2 of these. And choose 2. And you got a week, there's no rush, and let me see what you do. And, he has presence. He's nice looking. He's fine. But he really didn't know how to explore a character. He really didn't know how to stay in control of a character. And so I responded, I said, look, you're clearly remarkable. You're on a fast track in the dance world. It's now sidelined, but you need more character work. You need to do hundreds and hundreds of hours of character work. So look, nothing's happening. Nobody's going anywhere. You go to work, get teachers, Zoom away for 6 months and check back with me. Because sometimes for someone who's already a performer and he's taken acting lessons for his ballet, you just need to tip around a corner, but you got to keep working on it. And it won't be easy to introduce him. So I said, once we introduce you and say you're this big New York City ballet star and you don't have the tools to deliver, they'll be done with you. If you're not ready for how I'll introduce you, it will be over for you.
Yeah.
So that's be prepared. And I said, look, I'm being brutally honest. This is where and he was like, thank you. You're absolutely right. Working on that material, I realized how much I didn't know in making my decisions. I felt a little adrift. And he was like, absolutely. And by the way, you might hear from him. You were on my short list. Yeah. So, yeah, his name is Harrison. Anyway, yeah, just preparedness. I literally have no clue how to start to push your way in.
So there's one or two more questions I can get to. I'm gonna do these real fast, and you can help me out, but I feel like they've kind of been covered. Jay says, do you recommend that, or maybe not covered, but I think it's a simple answer. Do you recommend that non-union unrepresented actors submit to breakdowns or union shows and films? I think you can't really do that, Jay. You need an agent or a manager to.
Yeah, some agents will say, oh, you're not union, I can't work with you, but that's silly. In my entire career, nobody's ever said, Sarah, are they union? If they want to hire him, then they give you the pass or whatever the hell it is they give you.
Will they have access to submit to union projects, though, without an agent?
No.
So that's the thing. You've got to have access to the breakdowns.
Yeah.
That's said.
By the way, Actors Access works. I take it back. There is one way. And that's Actors Access, which, a lot of productions, even if they're union, little productions, they think I'm the devil and they'd rather work directly with actors submitting themselves.
Okay. So there's
one way. We still have Actors Access. Yes.
There are some even union up. And generally I hear that, broadly in most TV and film productions aren't available to actors without representation on actors. But
they have a lot of people to choose from.
And then this one, I do think you addressed somewhat, but Katie asks head on, what about seeking representation now? Any suggestions? So.
Well, again, like for instance, we're not in our high rise. So by the time mail gets to us, old fashioned snail mail, it's the 12th of never. I do get cold emails. I maybe open 1 out of 50 because I like the subject line. Cats are my bag, baby, or something, something weird. Like, what could this be? And then, but generally they are people that wouldn't qualify for us as a client. They don't have enough work under their belt. They haven't studied enough. So we wouldn't take a fly on them. That's just my agency. They're theater snobs. Most everyone is trained in the theater. This is the largest, this is such an incredible agency. I could go on all day how much I love them and how great their taste is and how lucky I am to be a part of who they are. But they have so many clients that have been with the agency 40 and 50 years. And so that there is this real stable, in other words. So it isn't like the APAs of the world where people are just coming and going. It is really, our clients know each other. They know us. Like the one actor we signed this summer that all of us in the company had worked at one time or another over the years. He'd different ways that and so we were like, oh, well, you're already part of the family, you already fit in. It's no problem. We didn't have to get to know him. There was no awkwardness with the Zoom,
Uh-huh.
which is hard. A lot of people don't want to do Zoom introductions. They don't
Yeah.
want.
Well, and then I guess really at the heart of the question, I don't know that this condition, of all the things that it does change, I don't know if it changes the answer to that question that much. You get an agent either by having a referral or a cold calling. I mean, you could go on in
Right,
more detail, but basically the flow chart breaks down that way.
right.
So, I would say I always lately have been telling actors to, just make sure that they join actor Facebook groups, for
Absolutely. Facebook has been incredible
a
for
great resource.
sharing information. Yeah.
Right. And then especially if you're not in LA, does your community have one or get one started? And then just start talking to each other, because news of there have been some general submissions that have gone out during this time, or especially earlier on when things really were frozen and people were freaked. They're like, okay, I'll meet actors. I saw all that information traveling through Facebook.
Right. Yes, you're absolutely right.
That's a resource.
You don't know where it's going to come from. Yeah.
Well, that's what the preparation is for, because
Right.
you start, if we could get woo-woo about it, but you start to become a magnet for your desires if everything's really ready. And it
Right.
doesn't mean just sit there and my powers of manifestation will make it happen. But if you're putting effort into anything every day with direct
It'll
intent,
come from somewhere, but you have to be working hard.
you have to be working hard. So last question for you. I wanted to end on a more personal one, is what an amazing career you've had. Amanda Melby says, hi, Amanda, I love you. Thank you for sharing. What haven't you had a chance to do yet that you still want to do?
Wow. Well, it's pretty funny. It's just so classic. In the 80s, when I was first an agent and you'd make a deal for an actor and you'd fly them all over the world, we were always given tickets and hotels to go visit sets, whether it was Europe or Kuala Lumpur or New York. That was just, as the agent, come on out, come on along. I didn't like to fly in all my early days, and I'm a Cancer. Like, if I'm at the office, I want to stay at the office. If I'm at home, I don't want to leave home. If I'm in my car, I don't want to get out of the car. Like, wherever I am, oh, this is good. I'm happy here. And I and I had gotten sort of agoraphobic, and now they don't offer me free anything anymore, but I could still just go. I can go to Vancouver and New York and see broad. So a year and a half ago, not this July, but last July, my daughter and I went to Europe for a whole month. It was our big dream, in Paris and Italy. And I was like, "Oh, what's the matter with me? I'm fine. I can travel." So I had all this intention now at my life at 60 years old as an agent. Now I would travel and go visit clients, and I would not go anywhere. That's it. So what's my goal? My goal is to open up my worldview and get out of the fucking house. And so I hope I get to that.
That's such an interesting answer, because I truly think of you as so worldly.
Well,
And
I have traveled, but generally everybody goes, my vacation this year, or then we're going to, and I'm like, why would I want to pack a bag and go to Hawaii I want to stay right here and make soup. I just want to, I want to be where I am. But I just come to this, I'm ready to tackle planet Earth. And that was the end of that. We were going to go to Germany.
I was going to go back. Oh, and then I just remembered this. It's almost been a year that I ventured back up north, because I went to Vancouver for the first time last year, and I made a pit stop in Portland, where I texted you a picture from the Benson Hotel,
Right.
where I was drinking whiskey and listening to jazz, and talk about I would love to stay right where I am.
Right. Yeah.
Moody.
Well, Todd, maybe you should come up. This is a side conversation, everyone, smaller meeting. Todd, Gunnar, come visit. You can come up. I have plenty of room. Come up here.
I will get in the car.
Yeah, I know.
All right. I'm going to go see the farm, everybody.
I was going to show you the farm. Does that show the farm out my bedroom window?
My God, it is gorgeous. Look at the colors.
It's crazy, right?
I've been to the farm before,
Yeah,
actually.
you have, but in the dark, I think.
It was night. That road at night is like, Jesus,
Yeah.
really? What are these directions? Okay, so anyway, we've got a wrap for now. Thank you all the guests who attended. I hope you got something great out of this. I promised a wonderful person and she never fails to deliver. You should hear, I wonder if your ears burn with the amount I talk about you and then the praise with which I talk about you. Because I find you very generous and endlessly entertaining.
Yeah,
So
we were separated at birth, you and I.
when I tell all my guests, if we were in person, I would have done something cheesy like have a Chattable mug to give you, or a
I know. Yeah, right.
or Make America Chattable Again hat. But we're not together. So what I have is these are Power Thought
Power
cards
cards.
by,
Louise Hay.
by Louise Hay, right?
Oh.
So my gift to all my guests is I'm just gonna flick through these real quick at some point.
Okay.
Stop, and whatever card you get is the card you were supposed to have in my mind. The universe wanted you to have today. Ready?
Ready?
Did you say stop?
No, I didn't know I was supposed to say stop. Do it again.
Yeah, at a certain point, just say stop, and that'll be your card.
Stop.
Okay, it's this card.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, it's got two sides. So for whatever reason, the universe wanted you to hear. I see my parents as tiny children who need love. I have compassion for my parents' childhoods. I now know that I chose them because they were perfect for what I had to learn. I forgive them and set them free, and I set myself free.
That's a really nice card. So, I am living, my home is on the family farm. And because both my parents are gone and my oldest brother are gone, I have all the generational materials in my home. And my father both were third and fourth generation organ pioneers. And my mom founded a hospital, founded a college. My dad was in the state Senate and the House of Representatives, and my mom. So this being here is very much about my ancestors. So I like it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us all today. I genuinely appreciate it. You are the best, the best, the best, the best.
Thank you. Bye,
All right.
everybody. Stay safe, be good, vote Biden.